This shop has the power to create many things, but it also has the power to destroy them. There are many dangers and safety hazards that must be considered. Accidents happen every day. This accident could have been prevented if the shop had adhered to the L&I construction safety checklist, checking their table saw for the proper function of the guard, splitter, and anti-kickback devices. Many accidents happen that we can't control, but most can be prevented through proper training and the right personal protective equipment. Properly trained and protected employees can directly and indirectly save your company major cashola and keep you in business. At this table saw, a gruesome accident could have been prevented if this company had properly trained individuals before putting them to work. On July 22nd, 2009, Nick Hilo of EcoGeek Construction went to work, not knowing he would leave with one less appendage. This is a reenactment of that scenario. On that day, many fatal mistakes were made, including improper outfeed operations and a cluttered, unsafe working environment. Here is Nick No Hand Hilo to tell his side of the story.
Yeah, we were just kind of a piece of wood just like any other time, and then all of a sudden I stopped pushing, but my hand kept going, and he didn't hear me because he doesn't understand our language. And we just found this guy off the street, so he just kept pulling and pulling, and eventually this is what happened.
The guy from the street.
Tôi tên Hòa.
My name is Ho Tran.
Tôi không biết chuyện gì xảy ra.
I don't know what happened that day.
Pizza.
I'm just a pizza delivery guy.
Họ hỏi tôi là
They asked me to work for $10 an hour between my
giúp
pizza
họ
shifts.
và tôi làm như thế.
I need to eat, you know.
Văng tùm lum sau khi mà
One moment everything is fine. The next moment blood is gushing everywhere.
Và bây giờ mọi chuyện ra. Tôi thấy
I saw it in the movie that one time. I put all of my gear on,
trong lỗ tai nè,
like they did.
Và tôi thấy
I thought I was doing it right.
Now, the CEO of EcoGeek Construction, Brian Hastings, with his account of the story.
Well, I wasn't here actually. I was in the back nine playing a little golf, and I got called in. I hired a guy off the street to come in and help them. I told these guys to get on it. They were behind schedule, and we needed to get this product out the door. I'm not exactly sure what's transpiring here, but now I got to pay for all this, and I'm not exactly happy about that. Just a minute, I gotta take this. Hello? Yeah. Yeah, I told you I'd get the dog food on the way home.
And peaches.
I gotta go. So that's what happened. I don't know. You know, now I gotta put in an L&I claim, and it's gonna take us back at least a month to get all this blood cleaned up.
Nick, No Hand Hilo, now disfigured for life, thanks his lucky stars for his union's 20-year employment contract with EcoGeek Construction. Now, he spends his days contributing to the company as best he can. This accident could have been prevented had the owner of this business properly trained his employees in the correct table saw procedures and safety precautions. The table saw is a very powerful machine with little forgiveness for those who misuse it. In fact, 31,400 people are treated every year for injuries caused by the table saw, and this statistic doesn't include accidents which happened on the job, like this one. This video will help you form the basis for making wise decisions when operating this versatile machine. This is Dale McCoy, a professional cabinet and furniture maker with over 25 years of experience using the table saw. As you can see, Dale has managed to keep all of his fingers. So what does Dale know that the other 31,400 people who go to the emergency room every year don't? Let's ask the expert.
Well, you know, there ain't no sort of big secret that's being given to a few people and kept from the rest of us. You see, the key to keeping your piggies is having someone teach you how to use this here machine properly and safely for different applications. Safety is just a matter of understanding a few basic laws of operation and putting them to use each and every time the saw is turned on. I mean, heck, In my younger days, I had a few close calls because I was in a rush or just too darn lazy to set up the proper safety guards. Well, I'll tell you this. It only takes one accident or close call to either change your attitude towards the machine or make you stop woodworking altogether.
This is an example of a poorly maintained table saw. Every well-maintained shop should have a system of organization that is used in order to sustain safe operating practices. A properly maintained system for the table saw consists of 4 things. First, a clean and uncluttered work area is required before operation can begin. As you can see, Dale is not happy about the current state of his work area. So Dale knows that even though he did not create this mess, he is going to have to clean it up.
Ice Age heat wave, can't complain. If the world's at large, why should I?
Now that the air is clean, he must check that his guards are in the proper position and functioning correctly. Third, make sure you have push sticks readily available for use. Lastly, every organized table saw has a place to store accessories. Some of the more common accessories used with a table saw are the miter gauge, arbor nut wrench for changing blades, dado blades, throw plates for varying blade thicknesses, and extra blades. So, in summary, an organized system includes 1. A clean and uncluttered work area. 2. Guards in place and working properly. 3. Push sticks in an easily accessible place. And 4. A place to store table saw accessories. As you've seen so far, there are numerous components that make up a table saw. In this section, you will learn the most basic and important components that will allow you to safely and properly operate this machine. One of the most vital components is the guard. Guards come in many shapes and sizes, with some being better than others. The guard shown here is not the greatest due to the fact that it is often removed in order to make narrow cuts. Once again, remember that in any instance that a cut is less than 2 inches and the guard has to be removed, seek assistance from your instructor. Next, there is the fence. The fence is quite self-explanatory, but it can be used for many different applications, as a guide or attachment point for jigs. Fences also come in many different types, with the Biesmeyer fence being the most used and the best for accurate measurement. We will not be covering the use of miter gauges in this video, but an important rule to remember is never use a miter gauge and the fence at the same time. As you know, the on-off switch starts and stops any machine or device. The on-off switch on this table saw obviously serves the same purpose, but it goes one step further by allowing you to easily terminate the machine without the use of your hands. This style of switch is an excellent feature on any machine in the woodshop because there are instances where removing your hand is not possible or a safe procedure. The heart and soul of the table saw is its motor. The table saw motor rotates the arbor shaft, which is connected to the blade. There are many different types of table saw motors. Each type gives the table saw it is attached to varying capabilities. Most table saws used in industrial settings such as this one have 3-phase motors that run at a higher RPM, opposed to a worksite table saw that will run off regular 120-volt household electrical socket. Next, the assembly which attaches and spins the blade is made up of the arbor shaft and arbor nut. When making adjustments, always make sure the blade is facing in the right direction so that it cuts properly. Always tighten the arbor nut to a snug fit, but do not tighten with an extreme amount of force because the threads on the arbor shaft are reverse threaded and will tighten with the use of the saw. Throat plates are merely access panels to these components, but they will have different sized openings for different blade arrangements. Remember, never use a table saw that does not have a throat plate, or one that does not sit flush with the table, as this will severely hinder your ability to safely operate the table saw. There are 2 adjustment wheels located on every table saw. First, the blade compass wheel, which allows you to change the angle of the cut. Second, the blade elevation wheel, which allows the operator to adjust the height of the blade for the thickness of the material being cut. Always adjust the height of the blade to about 1/8 of an inch above the highest point of the material being cut. An important thing to remember is that with greater blade exposure, there is greater chances of making contact with it. When operating any piece of machinery, you must wear the proper personal protective equipment. Do you think Dale looks ready to operate the saw? Ah, there we go. Much better. As you can see, Dale is not depending on his boyish good looks to protect himself. He has tied his hair back as to not get caught in moving parts. He protects his hearing with earmuffs, his eyes with stylish safety glasses, and he protects his lungs from sawdust by using a dust mask. Lastly, Dale is wearing closed-toed shoes to protect his feet. All of these items are required when operating the table saw.
Hello, Dale here. Checking the setup of a table saw consists of a few things. The first thing I do is double check that the measurement for the cut is correct. Then I check the height of the blade in relation to the thickness of the stock to make sure it's only as high as needed. A good rule to follow is this: the higher the blade is above the work, the more fingers or the more of a finger you're going to lose if something goes wrong. After I know the saw is ready to operate, I ask myself what exactly it is that I'm cutting. There are many defects in lumber that can make the operation go poorly. It is important to pay attention to the location of knots that commonly occur in lumber. Some of these knots are loose and can be thrown at the operator when the blade runs through them. You ever been hit in the face by a 1-inch diameter by 1-inch thick pine knot? Tell you what, that'll make you have a bad day. Other common defects include cup, bow, twist, and crook, which should all be removed before running the stock through the saw. As you can see, this piece suffers from many defects and is not safe to cut. Another part of checking the setup is making sure that the piece being cut can or cannot be used with a guard. In this example, the guard was removed because the cut cannot be safely made with the guard in place. Once again, cuts such as this one should be made by a seasoned woodworker like your instructor. This operation shows another good example of checking the setup before operating. Would it be safe to make this cut without 2 push sticks? If you said yes, then you're looking to go to the emergency room.
One of the most important rules that will keep you injury-free is correct body position. Here you see that Dale's body is to the left of the blade, leaving a space between himself and the fence. At the beginning of this video, you saw an injury to a man's stomach, which was caused by a piece of wood binding between the blade and the fence. This piece hit him because he was standing in line with the blade, and in turn in line with anything that gets kicked back by the saw. Kickback is preventable, but it does happen. In this video, an employee of a cabinet company demonstrates the power of an auto-feed rip table and the consequences of improper position when using the saw. Now that you know proper body position, Dale is going to demonstrate the proper rip technique. After engaging the saw, Dale holds the stock flat on the table and tight against the fence at all times. If the stock moves from this position, it is likely that it will bind and kick back at him, causing damage to persons or property that are in line with the blade. During operation, your hands have different jobs that are required of them. The left hand is used as a guide and has little to no movement to prevent hand contact with the blade, while the right hand is used as a feed mechanism. In this specific operation, a push stick is not needed due to the safe 4-inch distance from the blade. In order to keep hands away from the blade, many seasoned woodworkers will hang fingers over the fence to allow for a safer distance from the blade, as Dale demonstrates here. Once the cut is complete, Dale pushes the stock beyond the reach of the blade and waits for the machine to come to a complete stop. Many of the table saw injuries reported are caused by reaching over the saw to grab stock while the saw is still running. Never reach over the saw while it is still running. When ripping stock on the table saw, it is important to know your limits. Operations performed with long or wide stock generally require the assistance of another person having extended outfeed table or feed rollers to support the stock during and after the cut is complete. As you can see, a 4x8 sheet of 3/4 inch plywood can be cumbersome to handle with only one person, so 2 people are generally needed. Once the stock has been placed properly, the outfeed operator moves to the outfeed end of the table. When the stock reaches the outfeed operator, he or she does not pull or push the stock in any way, but supports it as though the hands are acting as a table themselves. Improper outfeed procedure is what caused the accident with Nick Hilo, now known as Nick No Hand Hilo. So remember these guidelines. A. Cuts less than 4 inches wide require a push stick, and any cut less than 2 inches requires the assistance of a teacher. B. Always have push sticks readily available and use the safety guards. C. Do not stand in line with the blade. D. Wear your PPE at all times, even when not operating a machine.